Well, here we are, my friends. I told you I'd do the challenge. I've almost met the goal. We're in the home stretch. We are on number 25 in the Godzilla Toho produced franchise, and this one is Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. Boy, I love the titles of some of these Japanese films, and here we get the story of Godzilla, and it takes place in the same world as the 1954 film, but like the previous film, it has no other connection. It doesn't recognize anything else in between. So this is a brand new story, basically. And we get in here where Godzilla shows up on shore once again after destroying a U.S. submarine, and the Japanese self-defense force has been working at trying to come up with ways in case this exact event happened to take him out. Well, obviously technology can't do it too well. They're getting their butts handed to them. But they get a little help on the spiritual side in the form of three guardian monsters in the form of Baragon, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. Yes, King Ghidorah's a good guy in this one. I know, surprise. I couldn't believe that. And so we see these three monsters try to defeat a very powerful Godzilla this time around and having some trouble doing it. But do they succeed, or will Godzilla finally lay waste to Japan because of the grudge that he has? You'll have to find out. This is an interesting one in that they took a completely different angle with the Godzilla, and I don't know if a lot of people will like it, but I appreciate it and enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fact they took a more spiritual angle to this. The three guardian monsters were souls that are trapped in statues. Godzilla himself, even though he was formed by atomic energy and weapons during 1954, he actually is considered a conduit that contains a large volume of the souls that sacrificed themselves during the Japanese War and those that lost their lives during his first attack, along with souls of the other enemy soldiers during World War II, all filled into Godzilla, hence why he has rage and he has a lot of things against Japan. At least that's what they surmised. And I thought that was just really an interesting approach. Not so much the radiation angle anymore. We have the more spiritual. Though they still do play at the angle of the guardian monsters are here to protect the homeland, not the nation. I love that. They got a line in there with that, and it works really well because these monsters still kill humans. They're pissed at the humans as well. In fact, there's one scene where we get in here where these guys try to drown a dog, but Mothra, don't worry, Mothra's got it handled, and the dog at least survives that encounter. So there's some interesting angles and approaches they take. Mothra here has been changed. She looks a lot more like butterfly-ish, colorful still. Love the model. Smaller than she's been previous, and no Cosmos twins. Though we do get an appearance of two twins in here that are kind of an ode to that, but there are no Cosmos twin connections anymore, which was a little disappointing, but it was still great to see Mothra. Baragon had some constructive changes to him as well. He's got no fire breath anymore, and his horn doesn't glow. He does still look like a cute doggy dinosaur. That brings it to Godzilla a little bit, but Godzilla in this one is just too powerful, and that fight doesn't exactly go well. As far as Ghidorah goes, weird seeing him to be a good guy. He's smaller in this one. His necks are smaller. Godzilla is still the biggest and baddest creature in this film, so that's why it takes these three guardians to try to take him down. And I thought that was just an interesting approach. I guess it wasn't their original approach. They were going to use two other Toho monsters, the smaller ones of the Toho cinematic universe, but they felt that it wasn't going to be profitable, and so they wanted big names in there, and so the recognizable names of Mothra and King Ghidorah were replaced, and they worked with it. They made the script work as best they could. Mothra has changed in her abilities as well. She doesn't have the destructive wind force anymore. No, she fires these bursts of stingers out of her abdomen, which was wild to see. I'm like, whoa, they've changed you, but she's still pretty badass and fun to see on here. This was one of the largest grossing Godzilla films of the Millennium films to come out, and I can see why. It is pretty an all-star cast in here, all just no holds barred as far as monsters go, and their monster fights are great and long, and I liked them quite a bit. They made sense. The Ghidorah, there's some influences from this film you could kind of see in the trailer scenes that we've seen so far from the Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019 coming up, I see a number of scenes in here that look like they may have been influences, though I think there's a lot of scenes throughout this franchise that are going to end up making appearance in the new Godzilla film coming out. So yeah, I just love the whole monster approach. Now, as far as the human element goes, we've got Chihiro Niyama playing Yuri Tachibana. She's a reporter, and I loved her character. We follow her through pretty much this entire story. You connect with her quite a bit. She's a very headstrong woman who is not going to take no for the answer, and she's going to get this story, the news story, and the information that she wants to the public, even if it means conflicting with her admiral father, who is Tazo Tachibana, and played by Ryuto Yuzaki very well. I love the scenes that they had in here. Very emotional. This is a different approach too. We see a lot of carnage in this one from the human perspective. Something that has been not quite there for a lot of these monster Godzilla films. Not every single one of them was devoid of it outside of the first one, but here especially, they seem to wanted to bring it back to the human level. We see a lot of people getting crushed and dying from debris, and there is some dark humor in here. A guy who tries to hang himself. We've got a woman in here who gets injured. She's in the hospital. You think she's safe from Godzilla because she got injured from an encounter with Godzilla, but you can imagine how that goes. So there's dark humor worked in here as well. It's totally different than some of these other Godzilla films, and not quite for the young like the previous installments. So I like that. Look for Megumi Odaka making a very small cameo in this film. And a couple other tidbits of information. The miniature city used in this was actually used in Kill Bill Volume 1. We got to see it there. So overall, I think this is a solid entry. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I've enjoyed it the most out of all the Millennium films we've seen, and most of the Heisei films. So maybe it's just because it has Mothra in it. I don't know. But whatever the case, I highly recommend this one out of the Millennium films we've seen so far. This one definitely should be on your watch list. We don't have a lot of goofiness going on. There's some seriousness going on, and it's a different approach to Godzilla. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about these. Please check out our Patreon if you haven't already. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this film. Constructive thoughts of if you liked it, if you didn't. Really would love some other perspectives. I thank you for your support, and until next time, remember, keep that ticket stub.